Hi, it's Evan back again. I didn't think I'd be back quite so soon, but I decided that the last video would just get too long if I added the piece about marking indexing marks around the device. So I'm going to make another video using the indexing system with a saw blade that I'd described in a previous YouTube video. This time we'll actually be using it to do some indexing marks. And then once we've assembled the whole thing, we can actually demonstrate how it works. So I'm temporarily removing the 3-jaw chuck with the work in it so that I can install the indexing system. This is the shaft that I made for mounting the indexing wheel on the back of the lathe. It has a Morse taper on the part I've got in my right hand, and it slips into the Morse taper in the front of the spindle, tapping it in firmly so that it doesn't come undone, and replacing the chuck. This little bronze or brass insert just keeps the shaft lined up properly in the spindle and makes sure that the circular saw blade that I'm putting on is actually centered. Now I'm hurriedly installing the little clicker that clicks along the teeth of the saw blade as you rotate the chuck. And I have this brass mounting on the back of the lathe that it screws onto. I just leave the mounting there, but I take the arm off usually. And this has a little clicker which is made out of a piece of broken sawtooth blade, and underneath it is a copper support so that it can click one way but not the other. Now you can see I've set up the offset drill using a power drill, mounted through it with a shaft going through a boring bar, a quick change boring bar holder. And I have a little stop on there that screws onto the shaft so that I can control how deep the hole goes. And the idea is I would drill a series of small holes around the perimeter of this device and have a peg or a ball that drops into these holes to provide indexing as I turn it around. However, it turned out to be very hard to drill holes in this material with the hand drill. Either the drill was blunt, the material was too hard, or something that made it really hard to drill the holes. So I tried switching over to a center drill, and that didn't really work any better. Ended up just making marks where the holes would need to be, and then went round and center punched them and drilled them with the pellet drill instead. In the end, I wasn't entirely happy with the positioning of the holes. I think the indexing system worked fine, but my skills on the pillar saw weren't perfect, and it only takes one hole to be a bit out of whack and it spoils it. So I decided to use a slightly different method, which I didn't film, unfortunately. I put a special tool in the tool holder and scratched indexing marks on the outside surface on the perimeter of this lower half of the device. So here you can see the marks, the indexing marks around the side. I made a stainless steel clicker that goes into these little recesses, and unfortunately I haven't got a good photograph of it. It's a stainless steel piece, you can just see in the top right hand corner of this picture, that is springy material that acts a bit like a ratchet and drops into these little grooves and makes a clicking noise as you turn it around. Also it tends to lock into those spots, and it actually has two positions, so you can use one for going clockwise and the other one for going anti-clockwise. And I use both of those for doing the lettering. So we just drop the coin blank into it and lock the coin into place with the 3 screws from around the outside. And here's the actual stamping tool protruding through the lid, and the lid drops down into the recess there. Of course, these photographs were taken before the holes were drilled. So that little strip of stainless steel keeps the punch quite firmly in place and actually works quite well. It's a little addition, and you can see the ratchet clicker device on the top right hand corner here too. After making a few mistakes, I decided it was best just to do one word at a time in mass production, and also I worked out that it's better to do the second word upside down, or right way up as you look at the coin, so you can read both words at once. Actually, it ends up being upside down if you don't turn around on the second word. And also ground little grooves on the bottom side of each one of these punches, so that once I'd put the punch in the slot, I could just check to see if that ground area was facing me. If it wasn't, I had to punch it upside down or sideways. After these coins or medallions were finished, they were sprayed lightly with a special metal lacquer, clear lacquer, to prevent them from going dull over time. And here's a collection of coins that I've done. Most of them are gold mine experience, but there's various different sites that I've made coins for, and most of them came out good, but there's a few mistakes, which we'll soon see. They all have 1 troy ounce written on the back, only sometimes they came out wrong. 1 tone ounce. No, 1 tone troy. So I put Gold Fever 1867 on the other side. Another one came out saying 1 trounce, and that's one of the most valuable coins in the collection.